Iran has made it clear that there is no alternative for victory on their terms. People need to realize that when the United States and Israel began this conflict back in February 28th with our surprise attack while negotiations were taking place that would have resolved the nuclear issue, an act of perfidy, a war crime, that we launched this not to punish Iran, but to destroy Iran. One interesting thing came out in the past week. We now know that Israel took air defense systems from Israel and deployed them to the United Arab Emirates, not just the systems, but Israeli troops. So Israeli troops on the ground defending a Gulf Arab nation from Iran. Well, defending, they were part of the offensive against Iran, which is why the UAE is being hit today, by the way. Everybody's like, they're victims. They're not victims. They participated in the surprise attack against Iran. But this is not a war that Iran can, walk away from or give the United States something. This is existential survival, and it's linked to the existential survival of Russia and China as well. And the Russians know this, that if Iran goes, they will go, China will go. This is not, that's just the way it is. So the Iranians said, this is what we have to do. We have to maintain some sort of deterrent value, which is to put the United States on notice that if you resume military operations, we will terminate the ability of the Gulf Arab states to not just produce energy, but to exist. They will die. And that's hyperbole, Scott. I don't know. Gosh, go to Kuwait City, shut down all the desalination plants. Tell me what happens in the weeks that follow when there's no fresh water.
Well, there'll be no people.
Bingo. But it's not just this. What's happening in the world today, everybody's focused on oil. And of course, oil is a big deal. But a large part of the world's fertilizers come from the Middle East, and they're not getting out. This is springtime. My grandfather, Marina's father, who was a great gardener, he's passed, but we still have the remnants of his garden. This is the planting season. You go out and you sow the fields. And if you're doing mass production of food, which we have to do in order to feed the global population, you need mass amounts of fertilizer, which is not available now thanks to Donald Trump. So we're facing a famine. We're facing energy slide. We're facing problems with advanced industries that need, for instance, helium. There's a large amount of helium production coming out of Qatar. Not anymore. So there's a helium shortage. That's the end of that. This summer is going to be a very, very difficult summer. Lufthansa, major European airline, 20,000 flights canceled. They are going to run out of aviation fuel in a matter of weeks. And when that happens, it's not just that the airplanes will be grounded, that businesses will go out of business. Several major European air companies right now are no longer training flight attendants and pilots. And if you've ever run a business, you never stop the training. Even, for instance, when the U.S. military was reducing their forces, we always recruited new people because you're not inserting new blood. It's the end. It's over. So basically, Donald Trump is killing European aviation. He could be killing American aviation. It's not just Spirit that's going under. A lot of these airlines are operating on, razor thin margins right now. And now he's going to screw them up by jacking up already fuel prices through the roof. You see Delta Airlines canceling flights because they can't afford the fuel right now. That's a major airline canceling flights because they can't afford fuel. That's here in the United States. So this is what Araghchi told Putin. We're going to do this. We have to. We have to have this nuclear bomb, this economic nuclear bomb, to deter American irresponsibility. And Putin made the phone call. He made the phone call, which is rare. And he only does that to make certain points. And this point he made is, do not do this because the consequences will be mind-blowing. But the problem is Vladimir Putin is speaking to an insane individual. And we have to call it as we see it, Judge. The President of the United States is not a rational human being right now. He is a man who suffers from extreme narcissistic personality disorder. Scott, you have Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know. What do you call it when a guy illegally renames the Kennedy Center? The Trump Kennedy. You can't do it by law, but he did it. This is a man who's building monuments to himself. He fantasized about having his head on Mount Rushmore. I just came from Washington, D.C. They have banners with his stupid face staring down at you throughout Washington, D.C. This has never happened before in American history. And we have this narcissist out there who has populated a world that doesn't exist. He is Scott Bessent receiving information from the Freedom of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, which is an adjunct of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, getting advice about Iranian energy realities that don't exist. Iran is about to run out of storage capacity. No, they're not. Not even close. Iran can't earn any money. They can't pay their soul. If you go to the Pakistani border, Scott Bessent, let me tell you, call up the geospatial imagery people and say, give me satellite imagery of the Pakistani-Iranian border and count the trucks that are going in and out, and then calculate the amount of fuel that's going back and forth. Understand that all of it's being paid for in hard currency that's going to the Iranians. We live in a fantasy world. Our blockade is very successful. Our blockade hasn't been successful at all. Iran is pumping ships out, and that ships are going off and they're making hard currency. Scott Bessent lives in a fantasy world. Pete Hegseth is saying we can do this. We can't do anything. We lost the 40-day war. There's no way we can win the next war. Dark Eagle, that new hypersonic missile that we got out there, game changer. We got one battery, 8 missiles at $41 million each. There aren't going to be any more than that. And they don't work. We don't even know what the lethality of these are, you see, because we've never tested them against the hardened targets. So all the people saying, we've got Dark Eagle going to reach in and touch and take out the Iranian ballistic missile cities, and we're going to dude, we got 8 missiles that don't work. We're going to destroy nothing. Trump lives in a fantasy world of his own creation. I'm an analyst that spent my entire life connecting the dots. Sometimes I get it wrong. I'll admit it. A lot of times I get it right. And I've gotten it right in a lot of high-profile, high-pressure situations. But it's very difficult right now to sit here and try and figure out what's going on in Washington, D.C., because the map that I use and the dots I use don't exist in Donald Trump's brain. He lives in a fantasy world populated by dots that are just figments of his own imagination or whispered suggestions from sycophants who are there to stroke the ego of this extreme narcissist, which is the last thing you need to be doing with a narcissist. The Iranians may have done him a favor today because they've punched him in the nose. And hopefully it broke the nose, and Donald Trump's bleeding from the nose, figuratively, of course, and he's going to snap out of it and go, whoa, we have to stop this right now. Vladimir Putin told me what the consequences of this will be. Because Trump's going to lose the midterm elections. He can't win. He had a chance. He blew it. And so it's over for him. Now the question is he going to be more than just impeached, or is he going to be convicted? And if he keeps doing this stupidity, he'll be convicted because he'll lose the Senate and in margins that are capable of achieving conviction. And that's the end of it. He got off the helicopter with Donald Trump Jr., one of the most corrupt individuals in the world. People need to understand how these people are playing the market, how what they're doing here is designed to make people millions of dollars, not by building things that make America great again, but by cheating, insider trading, market manipulation. We suffer. Our 401k plans go away. Our retirement goes away. They make money. Miriam Adelson needs to understand that she's going to be blamed for this, as she should be, and she needs to get the hell out of Dodge. MAGA is finished. This is the reality of it. We're going to be looking at a political, revolution isn't the right word, but it's going to be political calamity as America tries to understand how to go forward. But it's not going to be with Donald Trump as a viable president. He may serve another 2 years if he doesn't get convicted. But his presidency is over, and he knows it now, which means this insane individual now is going to be even more desperate to try and do something radical to change the direction that we're on.